The following program may contain coarse language, violence, nudity, mature subject matter, or scenes which may not be suitable for all viewers. Viewer discretion is advised.
All Hit Radio.
Welcome to the X Zone, a place where fact is fiction and fiction is reality. Now, here's your host, Rob McConnell.
And welcome back, everyone. This is the X Zone. I am Rob McConnell, and we're coming to you from our broadcast center and studios in St. Catharines, Ontario, Canada. Just a quick programming reminder, this is the final hour of tonight's show due to the provincial and municipal elections that were held here in Ontario. At the top of the next hour, we are going to be going to our newsroom. So, politics, pretty important these days. It's been a great 2 hours so far. We had, Colonel Deb Lewis in the first hour. We were talking about stress. Second hour, we were talking about the right at Patterson Air Force Base on a pre-recorded interview that we did with Raymond Szymanski, I think it was 4 or 5 years ago. And this hour, we're going to be talking to Jack Kenna. Now, Jack is a paranormal researcher, paranormal investigator, and joining us now is Jack. And hey, Jack, how are you tonight?
All right, Rob. How you doing?
Doing pretty good. So tell me, we had you on the show a couple of years ago.
Yeah, I remember.
We had a great time, and thank you very much for coming back on. And what have you been up to since you and I last talked?
Oh, well, dealing with the pandemic like everybody else. So
Oh, God, yeah.
didn't do a lot of investigating during that time period. But
No, and apparently there's a trifecta pandemic heading in our way, which should be interesting.
yeah.
So, how did you get involved in the paranormal?
I always had experiences growing up here in my home, and just always had, like I said, I'd hear things like my mother's voice, which it wasn't my mother calling me. Like I'd go talk to her and say, "Well, what do you want, Mom?" It's like when I'm 5 years old, right? And she'd say, "I wasn't calling you," but it would sound like her voice, and it sounded like it was like right in the room next door. So it was kind of weird. So different things like that. And I'm actually still in the house I grew up in, and to this day,
Wow.
people come visit, they stay overnight. They'll hear somebody that they think they know call their name from time to time. So it's very strange, very unusual. But nothing ever bad happened here. But my mother had a lot of experiences growing up. She used to talk about it to all of us kids and tell us things she experienced. So kind of piqued our interest and stuff. And so it kind of drew me into it originally. And then around the age of 17, I actually had a really bad experience.
Well, what happened?
But I had something. I really had gotten into the paranormal a lot and was really getting interested. My sisters at one time even used a Ouija board and did some conjuring of their own, so to speak. And I think that brought something negative into the house for a while. So I had this experience where I felt this thing was coming for me. I actually experienced it, saw it, and it looked demonic. Okay, it looked like part goat and part demon, I guess you would say. I don't know another word to put it. It had horns on its head, like curled horns, like a goat, and it just was there coming up the stairs. It wasn't a dream. I was awake. I felt like I couldn't move, and then something else spoke and said, "You're gonna be okay. Everything will be fine." And then it said something to this other thing, and it disappeared. So it was a very strange experience, very weird, right? And so I just got out of the paranormal completely. And it wasn't until years later I kind of put that out of my head. I got into other things, hunting, fishing, to school, hanging out with my friends.
Oh, the normal stuff.
Yeah, I got into the normal stuff, got away from all the other stuff. And then years later, a TV show came on. It piqued a lot of people's interest, including my own. But I still had forgotten about that whole experience. And it wasn't until actually just a few years ago, I'd done some TV shows and stuff, and they asked me if I wanted to do my origin story, and I'm like, well, I guess I can. And the funny thing was, 2 weeks before they called me, I had watched another show put out by a certain guy out of Hollywood. He does a lot of he has a lot of show. He has a lot of shows in the paranormal. He's been on TV probably the longest than anybody. It's Zach Bagans is who we're talking about. But he put out that Demon House um, show. And
Right.
actually the strange thing was what he said he saw in his nightmare in that show is exactly what I saw. That thing that he describes and they showed on his show is exactly what I saw, which brought back the memory because I had completely wiped out in my head. Then 2 weeks later, um, they call me from I think it's Our House Media called me and said, "Do you want to do your origin story?" And I'm like, "Well, I guess I can now because I actually remember it." So we did that show and we told our story. But I had forgot if I had remembered that, I probably never would have got back into the paranormal. I probably wouldn't have.
Uh, what was it like working with one of these paranormal shows?
It was actually kind of fun, actually. I enjoyed it.
Hmm.
They always want you to use the word demonic or say demon. I never would. I wouldn't even say the word around them because I'm like, I know they're recording, so they'll just fit it in there if you say anything. And I told them that. I said, look, I know what you want me to say, but that's not what was going on. We're not going to say it that way. And I worked with them, and we actually had a good rapport for a long time. I would say if I thought something had been negative in a haunting, I would
Hmm.
say that. But they always wanted you to use a D word, which is thrown around way too much. And you know, those things are out there, but they're extremely rare. Um, but yeah, so but I started working with them, and I would kind of mess around with them, and I'd bring equipment with me to the shooting, the filmings, and they'd be like, nobody ever does this, and I'd show them how to use it and everything else. So I think that's why I ended up with a pretty good rapport with them all, because I actually showed them what we actually do and stuff like that. And it's funny, I got them actually investigating one time. So
Wow.
yeah, yeah. Well, they really had an interest. They really got interested. I think once you do that, you reach out to them, you become a little bit more friendly with them, and they'll work with you to make what they need to make for entertainment because it is entertainment, right? I
Sure
mean,
does.
these
Yeah.
shows are entertainment purposes. That's really what they are. But you can work with them so the stories that you talk about, like on the
Hmm.
shows that we were doing, they tell you a story. They do reenactments, and the reenactments are always played up. But you could work with them to tell 80% of the truth. Okay. That's about as good as you're going to get. So, it's fun, but it does get information out there to people, and people do reach out for you for help after that, which is what our team really does. We try to help people who think they're
And,
experiencing something.
and was that when you were with the Spirits of New England?
Yeah, I still am. I mean, still with Spirits in New England.
Oh yeah.
We're still doing cases again. We're starting to see that pick up again. We're doing a fundraiser event this coming weekend for a library out in Massachusetts. So we'll be doing that. So we do things like that, and then I also teach a Paranormal 101 class, and I'll be doing an advanced class this year through a couple of my local colleges. So I mean, they're non-credit courses, but
Sure.
people are taking interest in it. There's still a lot of interest out there.
Why do you think the interest is still there after all these years of basically finding nothing?
Uh, I think realistically, what people are trying to find
Hmm.
is spiritualism, spirituality. Find something to believe in. What is there beyond this world, right? I mean, that's what people. I think that's what I get out of it when I ask them,
Hmm.
why'd you take? They want to learn what could be after this life, and a lot of people don't really connect with religions or anything anymore. So they're just looking for something more than themselves. I think that's really what's going on.
Besides your own experience that you had with that creature,
Yeah, yeah.
w- when you've gone on investigations, have you found anything that you can call evidence?
I have, and I call it evidence. Maybe some people may not believe it is,
Hmm.
but when we find something that's unusual, like a shadow figure or just a light anomaly,
Right.
um, we'll go through a lot to try to recreate that. I mean, and
Hmm.
if it can't, I'm not necessarily always saying it is definitely a ghost, but it's something I can't explain. It
Okay.
is paranormal. It's just above the normal. I can't explain what it is.
Hmm.
Um, or you capture what I usually look for. I work in the engineering field too. So being in that field, you look, it's not really evidence, it's data. Okay, you're looking at data. So you're
Hmm.
going through all the audio, you're going through all the video, which is your data, and you're looking for things that match up. Like, does something else occur while something else is occurring? Okay. Do you get an in our case with paranormal? Do you get an EVP at the same time you capture something else, some visual anomaly or something like that, or is there something else on another piece of equipment that happens? It indicates something at the same time you capture something else. So you're trying to put it, at least for me, three things together that would say, okay, you've got something truly unexplainable here. You had three unexplainable things happen all at once. So what is that? What is it? I don't know necessarily. Is it a spirit? Is it a ghost? Is it really? I think I always tell people what you're talking about is the human soul. If you believe you have a soul, that's really what we're talking about here. Is what happens to who you are after your body passes on. So you're just trying to put that data together. And actually, when I teach my classes, I don't really talk about evidence so much as I talk about data. All right.
Well,
You
what's
collect.
the difference between data and evidence?
Well, it's like anything else. Even when, like, you're in engineering, you collect data during testing.
Hmm.
That data doesn't prove anything until you can corroborate it together, several pieces of data together. Then you have points of data that point to this is something that's happening every time, okay, or on a regular basis. These 3 points of data tell you that there's something there that either needs to be fixed or is going correct. Okay, so it becomes evidence at that point, right? Evidence of something is occurring. Okay, same thing for the paranormal. But what I talk about is you're collecting data. So until you get those 3 points of data all happening at once, you don't
Hmm.
have any evidence of anything necessarily.
All right,
All right.
Jack, stand by. We've got to take our first break. Nation. Jack Kenna is our guest. JackKenna.org. We'll be back after this break. Don't go away. Jack Kenna is my guest. JackKenna.org. Jack, when you and your team go in to do an investigation, how do you proceed?
Well, there's a lot that happens even before we even get to that
Okay.
point. I mean, one of the first things we do with people is we send them out this. It's about a 10-page form, and we collect a lot of information, which includes medications, things around which could cause them to potentially maybe see things, hear things that that are caused by combinations of medications or possibly the medications themselves. Also, medical conditions. Certain medical conditions can cause people to see things that aren't really there, and
Hmm.
things like that. So you collect all this information. What are they experiencing? Where are they located? Who's in the house? What they experience there, what medications people are taking, what's going on there. And then once we've got all that from them and they send that back, we'll give them a call. We'll talk to them, find out if there's anything else that we can, and then set up a time to go actually out and see them to investigate, talk to them and investigate. So that takes a period of time. I mean, it doesn't happen overnight. You're looking at least a week to 2 weeks period before we actually go there and begin to investigate. And what we do is, if they can be there, that's fine. If they want to leave the home while we investigate, that's okay too. But we tell them exactly what we're going to do. We go over everything with them. We set up different equipment, cameras, audio recorders, um, EMF detectors will we use to check on the wiring in the house and things like that, the EMF that's in the house. So there's a lot we go through, and then we start a night investigation. So and a lot of it's like some of this stuff like you see on TV, but a lot of it's not. I mean, there's a lot more to it. You spend hours and hours asking different questions to see if there is something there. You make no assumption that there is, but you use these devices to see if something does seem to respond. At least you can follow a train of thought and questioning, right? You don't just ask random questions, right? You try to hit on something that maybe you're getting responses to on a device, or even physically. Sometimes I've been touched by something that I can't see. I got to tell you that. So what is that? I don't know. Like I couldn't see it, and it's not because it's dark. So there's nobody around you, but you can feel a hand on your shoulder at times, and there are different things happen to you. So you're just trying to gather all this and see what's really happening in a house.
Hmm.
I've been at locations nothing's happened, and a lot of and some of the answer was, well, you may want to talk to your doctor because this combination of medications you're on, some people are taking 3, 4, 5, 6 medications, and some of those combinations can cause various things, right? Hallucinations, even.
Hmm.
So you do bring that up to them, and sometimes people, have some issues, right? Or things they haven't dealt with from their past, which is some terrible things, rape, things like that. And some of these things are what's causing internal problems for them. And they think it's something because they watch a TV show or something like that. They think it's something evil or demonic. And it's
Hmm.
really manifestation of their internal things they're holding in, you know?
Yeah, but where do you draw the line between being a paranormal investigator and crossing the line into the mental health industry?
Uh,
Isn't that a very, very delicate line that should not be crossed?
it is. And you don't, when they start talking to you and tell you things
Hmm.
that happened to them, that they experienced, one of the questions you always ask is, well, you talked to a professional about any of this? Because what you find strange is people will talk and tell more to a stranger than they will to their own family. Why that
Is
is, I just think they feel you're not going to, tell their family about it or whatever. But anyways, all we try to do is convince them, look, you need to go talk to your doctor. You need to go talk to a professional. Talk to your doctor about that, about maybe somebody they can recommend that you should go talk to. And that's where we cut it off. I mean, that's just a recommendation to somebody. They can take it or not, based on what they're telling us and what they experienced. I don't go any further than that. We don't evaluate them. I don't try to tell them. All I try to do is encourage them to go find a professional or talk to their doctor about these things because they've never told anybody, but they're telling us. Why that is, I don't.
maybe because no one else will believe them.
uh, That could be too. They feel nobody will, or they feel that if they do tell a family member or they tell somebody else, uh, they'd be looked negatively upon, right? So I don't know. I don't know the reasons they won't talk to family about it, or
Mhm.
why they haven't talked to their doctor previously. But we just encourage them to go do that.
Do you consider that a red flag?
Yeah, yeah, I do actually. Yeah, because it can be that's all the problem really is. It's
Hmm.
mental health issues, and there's really nothing paranormal going on. But you sometimes come to that conclusion after you get there, and you're sitting down,
Hmm.
and these people open up to you more. Once you're in front of them, they'll tell you more than what they told you on those that form they filled out. And that's one thing we do is if they don't fill out the form, we won't go there either. We won't we I'll talk to them on the phone and make some suggestions, and usually it's the same suggestion. Go talk to, I think it's something medical. I suggest you go talk to your doctor, and see, or if they really feel it's something negative, I said, well, then go to your priest or minister or
Hmm.
whoever, and see if they can assist you. But if they don't send us the form, I mean, we don't collect money from these people or anything. We don't do this for that purpose. We do this to try to help people. So, you
But
know,
okay, hold on here.
all I need is a form from them.
Okay, how can you help people?
Well, like I said, sometimes it's just coming to that, right? Sometimes it's
Hmm.
just empowering them. Okay. If there seems to maybe be something going on there, some type of activity that we can't explain or whatever, we can just empower them to like take back your own home. If you feel that there's something there that's taken over your home, we'll even sit there with them
Hmm.
and talk to it. Okay. And tell it, look, this is not your home. This is this person's home. So sometimes you're just empowering people to take back um, their own place, right? Because they feel they've lost it.
But
Right. And that can work.
you're telling people to take back their own home. Is this after you've done an investigation or before you've done an investigation?
Usually after.
Okay.
That's only if we found something that we can't explain. If there's something paranormal, like I've talked about before,
Hmm.
there's something that we capture that we can't explain why that happened or what that is, um, then we'll work with them to try to empower them to take back their own life. Really, so sometimes people have just kind of lost their way
Mm.
with things, right? So again, it comes down to emotional things like that. A lot of times people contact us has just been through a lot. That's one thing I can tell you. Out of all the forms that are filled out, 90% of them, people have been through some very traumatic things in their lives. 90% of them,
Hmm.
right? And I think that's where they lose confidence in themselves, or they lose that ability to empower themselves because they've been put down, or they had some, they maybe got into drug abuse, things like that. They got out of it, but they don't have that confidence in themselves. So sometimes you're just helping them a little bit to get that back. And it's still, even in those cases, I'll still suggest people go talk to a professional. You know, it seems like you've got a lot going on. Go talk to your doctor. Talk to them about maybe talking to a professional,
Hmm.
psychiatrist, whatever, and get some help. Get some extra help, because that's the way you really empower people. I mean, that's how they can empower themselves realistically. And that is a lot of what it comes down to, I think, when you're working that type of the end of the paranormal realm, when you're not really trying to prove the existence of the paranormal, but you're trying to help people believe they have paranormal stuff going on.
All right. So you're trying to help people believe they have paranormal stuff going on.
No, these people believe they have paranormal things going on. So
So
we
you
just
guys,
try to help them to resolve that issue they believe they have, whether it is something there or
Mhm.
not. I mean, like I said, if we find evidence that there's something there that we can't explain, something paranormal, we catch voices that are loud and clear. And I'm not just talking mumbled things. You
Mhm.
hear a voice that's loud and clear speaking or responding to you on your audio, and it's not the other person that's in the room with you. That's kind of hard to explain. I mean, it is hard to explain, but you also captured something else on audio that is either a strange light anomaly. You had a personal experience at the same time. You maybe even heard this voice in the room with you, but it's not the person you're with. I mean, I've experienced these things.
Mhm.
A lot of people don't believe it. I mean, but until you experience it, you probably never will believe it. If I hadn't experienced some of these things myself, I wouldn't believe it either. But there is some people who have legitimate, what I call legitimate paranormal experiences going on in their home.
And what
So you try to
percentage
help work through that.
and what percentage would you give that?
Uh, well, with the people who send in the forms, probably about 50%.
So you go out to these houses and you confirm that there's paranormal activity going on in these homes.
I don't even believe there's anything going on until like after we investigate. You have to go in not expecting to get anything, right? If you go in there preconceived that you're going to
Mhm.
get something, yeah, you can find something. I know that happens with teams. You have to go in there believing that these people maybe believe something's going on, but you have to try to prove to yourself that they're really experiencing what they're experiencing. If you can't capture anything,
Mhm.
and we've gone to places that like I said, we've captured nothing,
Right.
zero. And so there's nothing going on there paranormal wise.
So
And we tell them that.
how long do you guys actually stay in the place to do the investigation?
Well, we're usually there for maybe 5, 6 hours, but sometimes we'll go back 3, 4 times
Mhm.
before we even, because if we do capture something the first time, then I usually like to go back and see if we get something another time. So sometimes these investigations can go on for several months before we make a determination. Um, I don't just jump in one night for a couple hours and say, "Oh yeah,
Mhm.
your house is haunted." I've had cases that have gone on for a year, and collected some interesting stuff. That's what's going on here, and is it something else? You check everything you can possibly think of to try to figure out, i- is it coming from the outside? Is it coming from another possible source? These different things you're experiencing. What is going on? What's happening? Um, and then if you end up, like I said, with things you still can't explain, that's paranormal activity, is according to us. I mean, there is a determination that you make. There is some standard that you set, and I think that's one thing that is somewhat lacking, or is lacking in this field, is a set of standards to follow or to go by. What determines what is real, true paranormal activity? Something you can't explain.
Why do you
So,
think that the scientific community is really just looking at the paranormal as a foo-foo subject?
interestingly enough, not all of it is anymore. Believe it or not.
Well, what is it? What isn't foo-foo anymore, according to the scientific community?
Well, part of this scientific community looking into it is quantum physics. That they've been doing stuff within that realm to try to explain some of their theories that are going on. So they think there's something there. Now, they totally believe it. I don't think they do, but they do notice that there's some type of activity that can go on there that can kind of explain some things that are happening
Hmm.
in their theories that they have. So some, and you could call them more the fringe sciences, I guess, are looking to the paranormal to try to help explain some ideas they have, like the possibility for something to exist in two places at once, right? Um,
Biolocation.
yeah, yeah. So they're looking at things like that
Hmm.
because there is some evidence, and we will quote it that way, that has come up with that way in the paranormal. Like you'll capture a voice in one location and in a completely different location at the same time. So that's by location. So they're trying to look at that. Is there anything really there? They're not trying to prove whether it's
Hmm.
the human soul or spirits or anything like that, but they're trying to figure out why this is happening and how can it happen.
All right,
So
stand by, Jack. We've got to take our break. We'll be back on the other side of this very short break with Jack Kenna as the X Zone continues. His website is jackkenna.org. Jack Kenna is our guest. His website is jackkenna.org. Jack, here we are, the month of October, Halloween. Do you
yep.
find more and more people coming to you guys in the days before and after Halloween?
No, actually, that's
No.
it, which is interesting. Yeah, it happens more. I see it in like the summer,
Hmm.
believe it or not, and later in the winter. But this time of the year, no, actually, it's kind of which you would
Really?
think you would, right? You
Yeah.
would think you'd get a lot of people contact just because it is Halloween, right? But no.
Why are more investigations done at night, Jack, than during the day?
Well, I think one of the reasons is most of us in the paranormal have day jobs. Okay, so
Yeah.
we investigate at night. So. Um, The other thing is during the night, things have quieted down. Like there's not as much car traffic. There's not as much just regular noise going on, even
Hmm.
in the house, things like that. So it's easier to conduct investigations when you're looking at a lot of audio, video, stuff like that. There's a lot less ambient noise going on. So there's a lot less that can interfere with what you're trying to do. So that's a big reason for it. You don't need to investigate in the dark, really. You can leave the lights on if you want. I think a lot of us do that because it tends to just quiet the location down. It also quiets it down EMF wise because when you're shutting off all those lights and everything else, you have a lot less electromagnetic frequencies and fields going.
Hmm.
So you shut all that off. A lot of electronics you just shut down completely. But mostly at night, like I said, biggest two reasons: you work during the day, but at night it's a lot quieter. The ambient noise and everything is a lot quieter.
Out of all the investigations that you've done, Jack, what has been the most pivotal investigation of your career so far?
I'll be honest with you, and I know you probably won't believe this or anything else, but I was involved with a possession case.
Okay, tell
Um,
us about it.
yeah, it happened a couple years ago.
Hmm.
Actually, during 2019, it went from 2019 to 2021, really, until the determination was made that this individual is possessed and an exorcism should be performed. I didn't make that decision. I presented everything that we captured, anything that we found during that period of time, to the exorcist, and they made a decision whether they were going to go through with that or not. Interestingly enough, in possession cases, you don't get a lot of paranormal activity. There's other things going on, and that's when it really delves into: is this a psychological issue or is this something else? All right, and you talk to the people. In a lot of in those cases, these people are seeing psychiatrists
Hmm.
and psychologists, and the problem for the psychiatrist psychologists is none of the medications they're prescribing are working. um, there's other things that go on. You can do different, let's say, prayers. Well, they are prayers. So you do different prayers and things like that silently in your head, and you'll see this individual react to that. They'll react to other things. Now, in this particular case, these people were Catholic. Okay, so we did a lot of different things in regards to that faith, because
Hmm.
that was what their belief system was. So they did. This individual did have a lot of very extreme negative reactions to things they didn't even know was going on. Like I said, you say a prayer silently in your head, and they're saying they're having a horrific headache. You put holy water and holy oil in your hands. You touch them, they say it burns. They don't know that you have this, by the way. They don't know that's what you've done, because you've done it before you even got to the location. So, but there's a lot. It takes a very long time. And you bring in, like I said, this other individual who was an exorcist. We brought him in. He met with the family and stuff like that too. And the exorcism was performed over a couple-day period. So I don't want to get into it more than that, just because of the privacy for those people. Did happen in southern New York State. I can tell you that much. And like I said, this whole case went on for just about 2 years. So
Was the exorcist a member of the clergy?
yes, yes.
A bona fide clergy or an internet for clergy?
No, bona fide. Yep.
Okay.
Yep. Yep.
What other types of investigations that you've done that you found very interesting, Jack?
Well, actually, we did an investigation for the USS Constitution out in Charlestown, Massachusetts, the old Ironsides, the ship out
Hmm.
there. That was very interesting, um, because the sailors had reported seeing an apparition of a little boy on the ship, hearing somebody walking behind them when they'd be on the ship. They even had video footage of things happening, because they have DVR cameras on the ship all night long running, because
Right.
it's a historical piece, and they'd see things moving. They showed it, some of it to us, and it's like, yeah, that's interesting. Here it is in a lower deck. They had a flag laid out, and all of a sudden the flag started waving up and down in the lower deck of the ship, where there is no windows or breeze or anything
Hmm.
going on. So, and we did capture some interesting things there. We captured several times a voice of a young boy with a New England accent,
Hmm.
talking and responding to, even because we had the boatswain's mate and the who's his second in charge on the ship there. Um, he was investigating with us, and he started going through certain commands, and he actually had a response to one of his commands. So, which he said should have been the only response he got. They went through this whole thing of preparing the gun to be fired and everything else, and one of the last commands they give is stand by, and you hear this kid voice saying standing by. And we played that for the captain of the ship and everything else when we revealed what we had found, and they were in shock. I mean, they're like, wow, that's, like he said, that should have been the only response I got to all the commands was standing by. In other words, you're ready to fire the gun. So I'm waiting for that command. So we did catch some interesting stuff there. It was fun. It was exciting. They let us be on the ship 2 nights in a row. Again, one of the guys from the ship was on with us each night. The boatswain's mate the first night, and I forget what rank the other guy was, but the next night there was another guy on with us. Um, but so that
Now,
was really interesting, and really an honor to kind of do, because
now, this voice that you caught, the little boy, was that an EVP?
yes, that was an EVP. We never heard it at the time. Yeah.
Okay, now I don't understand how an EVP works. Like I've taken in audio engineering courses,
Yep.
and an EVP makes no sense to any of any audio engineer
You're
who
absolutely
has
right. Doesn't
no.
doesn't make any sense to me either. How does it happen? I can tell you this. When I've caught EVPs, at least on numerous occasions, on the camera, I've caught a light anomaly at the same time,
Mhm.
which I believe is like just a release of energy. How that translates into a voice on a recorder, I have no idea. I can't tell you either.
Now, when you
It
say
makes
light
no
on the
sense.
camera, what kind of camera were you using? Was it infrared,
Yeah, it's an infrared
night shot?
camera. Yep. Yeah, it was an infrared night shot camera with an infrared light on it. And you just see this flash of, sometimes it's a flash of light,
Hmm.
sometimes it's a streak of, and it's not a bug. I mean, this is like a streak
Yeah.
of a bright light moving across the footage. So what is that? I mean, it's just like a dart of light. Um, I don't know what it is. We have one actually from the Constitution where we still can't explain it to this day.
Really? Yeah.
It's starts off as just a tiny little ball of light. It spirals upward, but as it spirals, it expands outward. And at the last minute, it collapses back in on itself. And it's
Kind of implodes.
yeah, yeah, almost, yeah. And it's free floating. We couldn't reproduce it. There's nothing. It's not a laser light. It's not a flashlight. Doesn't look anything like that. But I'm not telling you it's a ghost, but it's paranormal. I can't explain it. And we had one of our investigators sitting right at the table there. And at one point she looks that direction. You'd think she's looking right at it, and she never saw it. So that tells me it only appeared in the infrared spectrum of light. So
Possibly a firefly.
no, yeah, I'll have to. I should have sent that to you to see. I didn't think of it though. But it's very strange. It gets it's very bright, very large. It grows from something small to something large, and then just collapses back in.
Stand by, Jack. I've got to take my final break for this hour. And Exonation, our guest this hour is Jack Kenna. His website is jackkenna.org. And we'll both be back as we wrap up this hour here in the X Zone from our broadcast center and studios in St. Catharines, Ontario, Canada. I'm Rob McConnell. Don't go away. Jack Kenna's my guest, jackkenna.org. And Jack, what about orbs?
I don't really believe in them much.
No, eh?
No, orbs are. The only real orb I saw is that one I just told you about.
Yeah.
So that's what call an orb.
That's the only. That's why I'm asking, because that, I'd get people on here all the time, Jack.
You can actually see that piece of footage on our website, on our Spirits of New England website, spiritsofnewengland.org. It is on that website, and you can watch it from there. But orbs, I mean, I get a lot of pictures from people. Oh, look at all these orbs. And it's like they took it outside. You can know it's either moisture droplets, or if it's inside, you can tell it's a lot of dust. I mean, that stuff, you can tell also by the colors that it's just reflection of stuff in the background. Yeah, most of that is no. No. It's not anything. Right? It's dust, it's moisture, it's whatever. But once in a great while, like I said, you capture these other things that I can't explain what they are.
Why do these spirits, why do these ghosts, why do they hang around? Why don't they just buzz off? Why don't they go where ghosts go?
I wish they would. I do wish they would. I have a bit of a theory of what's maybe going on. If you believe in the human soul and you believe that it's energy, right?
Well, we know it is, yeah.
Right. I do believe it's only part of that energy that's left behind. The rest of us maybe go someplace else. Where we go, I know what I believe. I believe I go to heaven, but that's my belief. Right. Everybody else can believe whatever you want, but I do think if in a location that was special to you, or where somebody died traumatically, I think a portion of that energy is left behind there, and it's trapped there, and it may never go away. Now, is that the actual soul of the person? Maybe it's just an echo. Okay, an echo of that individual. Maybe it actually is a good portion of that individual. Like in the case of the kid's voice we kept capturing on the Constitution. Maybe he stayed there, right? Because that was very interactive. Like this in that individual, or if you want to talk about it being a spirit, a soul of a kid who died on that ship. Somehow this kid brought up the fact of a bear being on the ship in the 1930s, because he told these. There was a point where we were given a tour of part of the ship. It's called the manger area, where they kept live animals in the 1800s for food. And the guy was telling, they kept cows, pigs, chickens. And you hear this kid's voice, very clear, and a bear. And we didn't hear that. That's an EVP. So we didn't hear that. When you look at it, in 1932, there was a black parrot cub that was brought on the ship as a mascot during the world tour for the U.S.A. Constitution. Last time it traveled pretty much all over the world. And there was a black bear cub they had on the ship. The interesting thing is, the thing I find fascinating, when you look up the deaths of these, what they call boys on the ship, that was their designation. There was only 4 that ever died on the ship, and it was all like in the 1700s. Okay, so if that's the case, if you believe that's the case, how's a boy who died in 1700 know about a black bear on the ship in 1932? unless he's still there. Who he is still there. That's the most interesting and fascinating EVP or piece of whatever you want to call it I ever got, and that fascinates me to this day, because it means he's still learning.
Yeah.
This spirit, whatever, is still learning. He's still interacting. And if you take what the sailors are telling you, somebody interacting with him on the ship, then he still interacts to this day.
Jack, the time has come when I must say so long for you. I want to thank you so much for joining us. And Exo Nation, if you'd like to find out more about this gentleman and the work that he does, as well as the spirits of New England, do visit www.jackkenna.org. Jack, take care of yourself. Be safe out there.
Yeah, thank you, Rob. Always a pleasure.
Nice talking to you, Jack. Be good.
You too.
Now stay out of trouble.
I'll try.
All right, Jack. Bye-bye, buddy. All right, Exo Nation, that's it for tonight. I will be back tomorrow night at 10 o'clock as once again we cross the time-space continuum to this place that I call the X Zone. To my producer here in the studio, the one and only Craig West. Thank you, Craig. My Director of International Programming, Mac Alexander. As always, guys, yes, I'll buy the wings tonight on the way home. And to my wife and senior producer, the lovely Laura Rogers, thank you, sweetheart, for everything you've done, not only on this show, but for the shows over the last 20 some odd years. I'll be back tomorrow night, as I said, at 10 o'clock. But remember, always, always take care of each other. We are a brother's keeper, and always keep your eyes to the sky and your heart to the light. Good night, everyone.